I was a young sailor joining Columbus on his quest to explore the New World. As I'm recounting the stories of my young days to you, I hope you genuinely enjoy wherever you are tuning in from. Now, a little soothing music, a little dimmer light, and a little history tale for you. The sails ripple like whispered breath. The ship rocks gently, a cradle of rough-hewn wood and creaking timbers. The stars return, brilliant and endless, scattered across the inky black like diamonds spilled across velvet. You lie back against a coil of rope, the coarse fibers scratching your skin, a familiar discomfort. The smell of salt and tar, of sweat and unwashed bodies hangs heavy in the air. A thick, almost comforting blanket. You close your eyes, the rhythmic creak of the ship a lullaby, the gentle rocking a hypnotic sway. The hunger in your belly is a dull ache, a constant companion these past weeks. But tonight, it's almost tolerable. The endless blue expanse of the ocean, usually a source of both wonder and dread, feels tonight like a vast, comforting embrace. The wind, which has howled and shrieked for days, has quieted to a soft sigh. The waves, once mountainous and threatening, have shrunk to gentle undulations, whispering secrets only the sea understands. It's a peace you haven't felt in a long time, a stillness that seeps into your bones, easing the tension in your muscles, the weariness in your soul. Tomorrow you'll wake to the same endless blue, the same sun, the same salt spray, the same hardtack. But tonight, the quiet is a balm. It's a gift. A faint tremor, almost imperceptible at first, runs through the ship. Not a tremor of the hull, but something else. A subtle shift in the collective breath held by the men. A quietening of the usual groans and sighs. A hush descends, replacing the gentle sounds of the sea with an almost unnatural stillness. It's as if the ship itself is holding its breath, waiting. Then a cry, a single sharp cry, slicing through the night's quietude. It's not a cry of alarm, not a cry of pain. It's a cry of something else entirely. A cry of wonder, perhaps, or surprise. You lift your head, your eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. Other heads are lifting too, silhouetted against the starlit sky. Whispers snake through the darkness, barely audible, but carrying a palpable sense of anticipation. Above, a silhouette against the moonless sky. A dark shape, circling, circling, circling. It's a bird, but a bird you've never seen before. Larger than any gull. Its wings beat with a slow, powerful grace, its movements fluid and effortless. The blackness of its plumage is accentuated by the starlight, a creature of midnight and mystery. And in its beak, something small, something light, a twig, a small, slender twig clutched gently in its beak. The bird circles once more,
closer this time, its silhouette stark against the vast, star-studded canvas. Then it's gone, disappearing into the night as swiftly as it appeared, leaving behind a silence even deeper than before. A ripple of excitement, barely contained, passes through the ship. It's not a shout, not a celebration. It's something quieter, more profound, a shared understanding, a collective sigh of relief, a faint hope kindled in the darkness. A bird carrying a twig. It means land. The whispers grow louder now, a low hum of speculation and hope. The men talk in hushed tones, their voices rough with exhaustion, yet filled with a new energy, a renewed sense of purpose. The twig, a simple, insignificant thing in itself, becomes a symbol, a promise, a testament to the possibility of survival. It's a sign, perhaps, that their journey isn't just a relentless march towards an unknown fate. You close your eyes again, the image of that bird, that twig, etched in your mind. The hunger in your belly is still there, the weariness in your bones still heavy. But now a new sensation mixes with those familiar discomforts, a faint flicker of hope, a whisper of anticipation, the small, tenacious bud of expectation blooming in the desolate landscape of your exhaustion. Tomorrow the ocean will still be vast, the sun still relentless, but tonight, under the silent gaze of the stars, you dream of land. You dream of trees. You dream of twigs.
The sun bleeds into the ocean, painting the water a bruised purple. The air cools, the salty tang less sharp, softening into a gentle caress against my skin. The groaning of the timbers, the constant companion of our journey, seems to quieten, its rhythm slowing to a deep, rhythmic sigh. The vastness around us, so oppressive during the day, becomes a canvas of infinite darkness, studded with a million pinpricks of light. The stars, they are different here somehow, brighter, bolder than those I remember above the olive groves of home. They seem to whisper secrets to the endless ocean, secrets only the sea and the sky truly understand. The ship rocks gently now, a slow, calming sway, like a cradle on a boundless sea. Hunger gnaws at my belly, a familiar ache, but the intensity has lessened, dulled by the encroaching drowsiness. The hardtack and sour wine were meager, but they've held back the worst of it. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough hemp scratching my cheek, a comforting discomfort. My body, usually a canvas of aches and stiffness, feels strangely relaxed, lulled by the hypnotic rhythm of the waves. My mind wanders, adrift on the same boundless ocean as the ship. Thoughts of home, of family, of the life left behind drift in and out like the phantom scent of wood smoke on a distant breeze. Sometimes I remember the face of my mother, her hands weathered and strong, and my heart aches with a longing that's almost too great to bear. But the sea also holds a strange peace, a quiet oblivion that wraps around me, soothing the sharper edges of sorrow. The night unfolds.
The silence is broken only by the whisper of the wind in the sails, the creak of the ship, and the rhythmic lap of the waves against the hull. It's a sound I've come to know intimately, a lullaby that has accompanied countless sleepless nights. The darkness is alive with its own mysteries. I see shapes in the stars, faces in the swirling clouds, hear whispers in the wind that may or may not be real. Perhaps it's the hunger, the relentless monotony, the endless sea, working together to blur the boundaries between reality and dream. Then, a flicker of movement at the edge of my vision, a small dark silhouette against the vast star-studded expanse. A bird, not the large seabirds we sometimes see, but something smaller, more delicate, a creature that shouldn't be so far from land. It circles the mast, its flight erratic, hesitant as if exhausted. It circles again, closer this time, a tiny speck against the moonlit canvas of the sails. The men around me stir, their murmuring barely a sound in the vastness of the night. Their breaths catch, a collective intake of air. There is a shared silence, heavy with expectation and hope. We have lived for weeks surrounded by nothing but water, an expanse so endless it has begun to feel infinite, an insurmountable barrier between us and the world we left behind. The bird, a fragile creature, a traveler of the sky, becomes our only connection to something else, something beyond this vastness. With a final exhausted flutter of its wings, the bird lands on the mast, its small body trembling with fatigue. It clings to the rough wood, its dark eyes closed. Then something falls. A tiny twig, no bigger than my finger, drops onto the deck. It rolls, a small brown speck, and stops near my feet. I reach down, my fingers brushing against the rough bark. It's smooth, almost polished, but not by the sea. It feels different. I raise it to my nose, and the scent hits me. A sharp, earthy fragrance, unmistakable, irrefutable. The scent of soil, of damp leaves, of the land itself. A gasp escapes my lips. This is not the smell of a ship. This is the smell of earth. The men around me have seen it, smelled it too. There's a collective shift in the air, a surge of hushed excitement, a communal breath held and then released in a low murmur of awe. A twig, a small, insignificant twig, but to us adrift for weeks in the endless ocean, it is a message of hope, a promise, a testament to the possibility of land. The endless blue has stretched beyond the limits of our hope, but this tiny twig, a feather from an exhausted bird, is proof that the earth is not a lie.
The bird, exhausted from its long journey, settles down on the mast, perhaps dreaming of distant trees and cool green leaves. It is, in its silent vigil, a symbol of hope, a tiny beacon of promise in the limitless expanse of the ocean. I close my eyes, the scent of earth filling my senses. Tomorrow we will sail on, but tonight, for the first time in weeks, the darkness doesn't feel so endless. The ship rocks gently on the waves. The sea whispers. Hope, like a quiet bird, finds a nest in our weary hearts. The sails ripple like whispered breath. The ship rocks gently, a slow, soothing cradle against the vastness. The stars return, brilliant and endless, scattered like diamond dust across the inky black. A lone bird, a small speck against the immensity of the night, circles the ship, carrying a twig, a tiny hopeful branch against the endless blue. A murmur rises from the men, a low hum of excitement, a shared breath of anticipation. Land, maybe, soon. You lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers scratching against your skin, a familiar discomfort. You close your eyes, the scent of salt and wood filling your nostrils, the rhythmic creak of the ship, a lullaby. Tomorrow you'll wake to the same ocean, and that's somehow enough for now. The gentle rocking stops abruptly. A low growl, a deep rumble from the belly of the sea precedes the onslaught. The stars, moments ago so comforting, are swallowed by a churning black sky. The wind, a gentle whisper just moments before, erupts into a furious scream, tearing at the sails, ripping at the very fabric of the ship. The lullaby is gone, replaced by a deafening roar, the shriek of wood groaning under immense pressure, the desperate cries of men. The ship is no longer a cradle, but a toy tossed about in a giant's hand. Mountains of water rise from the depths, colossal waves that dwarf even the Santa María, crashing down on the deck with the force of a collapsing world. You cling to anything you can find, a rope, a spar, a fellow sailor's shirt, your knuckles white, your body screaming in protest against the unrelenting battering. The ocean, once a silent companion, is now a raging beast intent on swallowing you whole. The air is filled with spray and screams, the smell of salt now thick with the coppery tang of fear. Rain lashes down, blinding and cold, mixing with the sea water that floods the deck, turning the world into a swirling vortex of grey and white. Each wave is a fight for survival, a brutal test of strength and will. You're pulled under, gasping for breath, the icy water stealing your air, the taste of it bitter and metallic on your tongue. You fight, claw, and pull yourself back to the surface, gasping for the ragged air, only to be thrown back down again by another mountainous wave. Below deck, the chaos is even more terrifying. The ship groans and creaks, timbers straining under the immense pressure. The sounds of cracking wood, the cries for help are swallowed by the roar of the storm, a symphony of destruction that chills you to the bone. You see faces contorted in terror, eyes wide with a fear that echoes your own. The comforting darkness below deck is lost to the chaos. There is only a terrifying scramble for survival in the dark, the smell of sweat and fear heavy in the air. Time becomes meaningless, a blur of violent motion, of desperate struggle, of cold salt water filling your lungs, a fight against the inevitable. Each wave feels like the last, each moment a potential eternity. You cling to the hope, so fragile now, that the storm will eventually end, the dawn will eventually break, that somehow you will survive. But doubt, cold and sharp, cuts through the fear. The storm rages on, seemingly without end. The ship is tossed like a leaf, its timbers groaning under the immense pressure, a desperate plea against the relentless fury of the sea. You see a man washed overboard, swallowed by the monstrous waves without a trace. His scream is lost in the wind, and you know with chilling certainty that you could be next.
Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the fury begins to abate. The wind softens, its scream turning into a mournful sigh. The waves, though still large, begin to subside, their violent crashes replaced by a slower, more measured rhythm. The rain lessens, leaving behind a damp, chilling silence. Dawn breaks, casting a pale, ethereal light across the ravaged sea. The storm is not over, but the worst of its fury has passed. The ship, battered and bruised, lies tossed and broken, but afloat, still cutting through the now less violent waters. Exhausted, bruised, and soaked to the bone, you lie where you fell, clinging to whatever you can, the taste of salt and fear still clinging to your tongue. The silence is deafening, broken only by the sigh of the wind and the creak of damaged timbers. Around you, the other men, equally battered, are slowly returning to consciousness. Their eyes, reflecting the gray dawn, hold a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and a chilling understanding of their mortality. We lived, but at what cost? The image of the lost sailor, swallowed by the waves, remains etched on your mind, a grim reminder of the ocean's power, its capacity for both beauty and destruction. The sunrise is a beautiful thing, casting a warm glow onto the ship and its waterlogged, shaken crew. Yet this particular sunrise is born of terrible turmoil, a fragile relief from the tempest, a different ocean now. The sun bleeds into the ocean, painting the waves in hues of bruised purple and fading gold. The air cools, carrying the scent of salt and something else, something faintly green, almost grassy. The groaning of the timbers softens, a lullaby of wood and water. My stomach rumbles, a low, persistent growl that's become the soundtrack of this endless voyage. Hardtack is a poor substitute for bread, and even the memory of a proper meal feels distant, a dream from another life. I find a spot near the stern, nestled against a coil of thick rope. The rough hemp is surprisingly comforting against my aching back. The stars prick the darkening sky, a million tiny pinpricks of light in the vast, inky canvas above. They are familiar now, these celestial companions. I've learned their patterns, traced their paths across the night, finding a strange solace in their unchanging constancy. This vastness, it both terrifies and soothes. The ocean stretches out before me, a limitless expanse of dark water, reflecting the starlight back in shimmering trails. The ship rocks gently, a slow, rhythmic creak and sway. It's the motion I've grown accustomed to, a constant, familiar presence. It's the heartbeat of this wooden beast, carrying us, unwilling passengers, across the boundless sea. The sound of the waves is a hypnotic whisper, a lullaby that washes over me, carrying away the anxieties of the day. The hunger pangs dull, replaced by a weary tiredness that settles deep in my bones. A sudden, small sound breaks the quiet, a soft thump against the wooden deck. I lift my head, blinking against the starlight. At first I see nothing, then a movement, a small shape lying still near my feet. I reach out cautiously, my fingers brushing against feathers as soft as down. It's a bird, tiny and frail, its wings tucked close to its body. It's exhausted, almost lifeless. I gently lift it, its weight barely registering in my palm. Its feathers are the color of sea foam, speckled with gray. Its small beak is slightly open, its breath shallow and barely perceptible. As I look closer, I see something nestled amongst its feathers. A single, vibrant green leaf. A leaf. A leaf from a tree. Not a dried, brittle thing, but a fresh, impossibly green leaf, dewy with moisture. A gasp escapes my lips. The other men, roused from their sleep by the small sound, gather around me. They too see the leaf. A murmur runs through the small group, a hushed, incredulous sound. A leaf. Proof. Hope. The tiny bird, sensing the warmth of our hands, stirs slightly, its head lifting. It opens its eyes, small and dark, full of an exhaustion that cuts through the heart. Then, with a final, shuddering breath, it closes its eyes and goes still. But the leaf remains.
The news spreads rapidly through the ship. The murmurs become whispers. The whispers grow into excited, hushed conversations. The green leaf is passed from hand to hand, a precious relic, a testament to the possibility of land. It's small, easily lost, but in this endless sea, it represents a whole world. The faces around me, etched with hunger and exhaustion for months, are lit with something I haven't seen in a long time. Hope, a fierce, burning hope that ignites a spark amidst the weariness. The small, lifeless bird, the vibrant green leaf, they are more than just objects. They are symbols. Symbols of life, of land, of the end of this interminable journey. They are tiny fragments of a world we thought lost, reclaimed and brought to us by the tireless wings of a single, exhausted seabird. Tonight, we sleep under the watchful eyes of the stars, but tonight the darkness feels different, less terrifying, and a little bit brighter. The waves continue their ceaseless rhythm, but the sound is no longer a mournful dirge. It's a lullaby now, accompanied by the quiet whispers of hope and the promise of land. I close my eyes, the image of the green leaf imprinted on my eyelids, and let the gentle rocking of the ship lull me into a sleep deeper and more peaceful than any I have known in weeks. The salt spray kisses my face, a familiar chill. The creak of the Santa María is a lullaby I've grown used to, the rhythm of wood groaning under the weight of the endless sea. The stars are fat jewels scattered across a velvet cloth. Closer here, it seems, than they ever were back in Spain. I don't remember the faces of my family anymore, only the feel of my mother's rough hands, the taste of bread warmed from the oven, a memory as distant and hazy as the horizon itself. Tonight, the waves are gentle, a mother's rocking. The wind whispers secrets to the sails, secrets only the sea understands. Hunger gnaws at my belly, a constant companion these past weeks, but tonight it feels quieter. Maybe it's the stars, or maybe it's the exhaustion finally claiming its due. I close my eyes, the scent of salt and tar, a perfume I've come to know intimately. I awaken to a different kind of quiet. The usual rhythmic groan of the ship is muted, replaced by a stillness, a breathless hush that sits heavier than any storm. The sky is the color of old parchment, smudged with the faintest hint of rose where the sun sleeps. The air feels different, lighter. It holds the faintest trace of something else, something green and earthy, far removed from the endless salty tang of the ocean. I sit up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, and that's when I see it. A hazy smudge on the horizon. At first, it's nothing more than a trick of the light, a phantom born of tired eyes and longing hearts. But as the sun climbs higher, painting the sky in bolder strokes of orange and gold, the smudge grows. It sharpens, takes shape, resolving itself slowly, agonizingly, into something green. A dark, rich green line against the pale blue canvas of the sea. Land. A gasp escapes my lips, a sound lost in the whisper of the morning breeze. I look around at my shipmates, still slumped in their sleep, their faces etched with the same exhaustion that haunts my own. I want to shout, to wake them, to share this impossible sight. But the words catch in my throat, a lump of raw, unbelievable joy. Then a cry, a ragged, desperate sound that cuts through the morning stillness. It's Pedro, the youngest amongst us, his face gaunt and pale, his eyes wide and wild. He's pointing, a trembling finger directed towards that hazy green line, now undeniable, a promise of solid earth after weeks adrift in the liquid wilderness. "Terra!" he screams, the word raw and choked with emotion, the sound spilling from him like a prayer. "Terra!" The cry rips through the quiet, snapping the men awake. One by one they stir, groggily at first, then slowly, their eyes focusing on the horizon. The sounds that follow are a symphony of awe and disbelief. Gasps, murmurs, excited shouts. Some weep, others laugh, their faces reflecting a mixture of relief and wonder. The faces that have been etched with worry and suffering are now alight with an almost frantic hope. We are no longer just sailors. We are men transformed, reborn by the sight of land.
The green line grows clearer still, resolving itself into a lush, verdant shoreline. A vision so breathtaking it feels unreal. Palm trees, perhaps. I cannot discern the details, yet the very existence of that line is enough, a tangible testament that our odyssey is not in vain. The captain's orders are barked. The ship comes alive with a frenetic energy. Ropes are hauled, sails adjusted. Even the galley fire crackles with a newfound vigor, promising hot food and a celebratory meal. The air buzzes with the energy of 1,000 beating hearts, a shared miracle witnessed. We are moving, gliding towards that green shore, our ship a living thing driven by hope, the promise of the earth. The once familiar ocean now feels strangely alien, a distant memory separating us from the lush green shore. The water itself shimmers with an almost unreal luminescence, mirroring the profound joy and relief washing over us. The air, previously sharp with salt, now holds the scent of unfamiliar flowers carried on the gentle breeze. The sea is still, but our hearts are turbulent. We are alive. We are not just surviving, but we are approaching salvation. The long, monotonous days and nights of this voyage have shaped us, worn us down to our very souls. But here, at the edge of an unseen world, hope blooms brighter than any sun. Even now, as I speak,
I feel the shiver of disbelief run down my spine, the warmth of unshed tears burning behind my eyes. The journey had been long, brutal, a constant battle against the relentless power of the ocean. But the sight of that land, a small green promise on the horizon, is reward enough for the horrors, for the uncertainty, for the sheer agony of the unending blue. It is a balm to the soul, a reminder that the most daunting voyages can end with the most profound joy. It is the taste of earth on our tongues before we even set foot on it. The sounds of the sea fade slowly, replaced by the soft whisper of the breeze carrying the scent of unfamiliar land. The gentle rocking of the ship slows, the creaks soften, giving way to the promise of solid ground. A promise of a future we cannot yet comprehend, but one that we approach, finally, with open hearts and hopeful eyes.
The sun bleeds into the ocean, painting the waves in streaks of orange and purple. The air cools, a welcome change from the relentless heat of the day. The salt spray, once a constant irritant, now feels almost comforting. It clings to my skin, a reminder of the vast, indifferent ocean that surrounds us. The groaning of the ship is softer now, a low lullaby against the whisper of the wind in the rigging. Hunger still gnaws at my belly, a dull ache that's become a familiar companion. But tonight, the ache is less sharp. The endless blue has given way to a sky bursting with stars, so many and so bright they feel close enough to touch. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers digging into my back. It's not uncomfortable, it's just there. Another part of the endless texture of this life at sea. The ship rocks gently, a slow rhythmic sway that soothes me. I close my eyes, the darkness behind my eyelids filled with the shifting patterns of the waves, the distant calls of unseen birds, the creak of the timbers. Sleep comes slowly, reluctantly, like a shy bird settling on a branch. It's a sleep filled with dreams of green fields, of cool running water, of bread that doesn't taste of salt and despair. Dreams that flicker and fade as quickly as the fireflies I sometimes see dancing on the surface of the water at night. I wake briefly, the cold wind pulling at my thin blanket. The stars are still there, unwavering witnesses to our endless journey. I drift back to sleep, and for a moment I'm back in my village, surrounded by the smells of baking bread and blooming wildflowers. My mother's smile is in my memory, a sunbeam piercing the darkness. Then a sharp sound cuts through the peace of the night, a fluttering, a soft thud. My eyes snap open. The sounds of the sea are punctuated by a faint, ragged breathing. I sit up, my joints stiff and aching. In the dim light of the stars, I see it, a bird, small, exhausted, its wings ragged and torn. Its feathers are plastered to its body, soaked through with seawater. It lies on the deck, its delicate chest heaving.
It's not just any bird. It's different from the gulls that follow in our wake, the scavenging birds that are always hungry. This one is smaller, more brightly colored. As it struggles to lift its head, it
drops something from its beak. Something small, something green. It falls to the deck with a barely audible pat. I reach for it, my fingers brushing against the cool, damp surface. It's a leaf, a single, vibrant green leaf, unlike any leaf I've ever seen. It's broad, with jagged edges, and a rich, deep green that seems to glow in the starlight. A tropical leaf. A murmur runs through the men who share this small space, whispers of wonder and disbelief. Someone lets out a low, choked sob. Another man kneels, his hand hovering over the bird. He speaks in a soft, reverent tone, a prayer, perhaps, or a word of comfort for the dying creature. The leaf is a miracle, a testament to the tenacity of life, to the hidden possibilities hidden beneath the vast expanse of the unforgiving sea. It's proof, fragile and exquisite, that land exists, that somewhere beyond this endless blue, there's soil and sun and life that is not just clinging to the harsh, salt-ridden air. This tiny, battered bird, this single leaf, brings something more valuable than bread and water to our starved hearts. It brings hope, a fierce, desperate hope that flickers brightly, chasing away the shadows of despair that have begun to creep into the corners of our minds. The men gather around the bird, their faces illuminated by the starlight and the shared promise of this fragile green emblem. A tear runs down my sun-weathered cheek, mingling with the salt that has become a permanent part of my skin. The bird takes one last shuddering breath and then stills. The green leaf, a symbol of rebirth and resilience, lies on the deck, a promise whispered in the darkness. We watch it, a silent vigil, our hearts filled with a fragile, precious hope, a feeling stronger than the ever-present hunger and the constant fear. And as the dawn approaches, painting the eastern sky with pale streaks of light, we look out at the vast ocean and feel something close to peace. The journey continues, but now we have a green leaf to remind us of where we are headed, a silent pledge of our survival. The air hangs heavy, thick with the smell of salt and something else, something faintly green, almost sweet. The rhythmic creak of the Santa Maria, the constant companion of these long weeks, has slowed to a gentle sway. The waves lap against the hull with a soft sigh, a lullaby whispered by the endless ocean. The stars, a million pinpricks of light against the velvet black, seem closer tonight, their cold brilliance a stark contrast to the warmth of the day's relentless sun. My bones ache, a deep, familiar weariness settling into my joints. Hunger gnaws at my belly, a persistent, hollow ache that no amount of hardtack can truly satisfy. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers scratching against my skin. It's a familiar discomfort, just another texture in the tapestry of this endless journey. I close my eyes, letting the rocking of the ship lull me into a state between wakefulness and sleep. The sounds of the sea become a comforting blur,
a rhythmic drone that washes over me, erasing the anxieties that prick at the edges of my mind. Will we ever see land again? Is this endless expanse of water truly our fate? The questions are always there, lurking just beneath the surface of my thoughts. But tonight they seem distant, muted by the rhythmic pulse of the ocean. Then a sound cuts through the quiet. A soft thud, a flutter of wings. My eyes snap open. In the dim light, I see it. A small bird, a splash of vibrant color against the muted tones of the ship's deck. Its lies struggling, its small body twitching, one wing bent at an unnatural angle. It's exhausted, utterly spent, but even in its distress, there's something remarkable about it.
As men stir around me, their murmurs rising above the creak of the ship, the bird struggles to raise its head. Its tiny beak opens and closes, emitting a series of weak, chirping sounds. And then I see it, clutching tightly in its talons a single, vibrant green leaf, glistening faintly in the starlight. It's unmistakably a leaf from a living thing, not a withered scrap blown out to sea. The leaf of some bright tropical plant, full and rich and alive. A ripple of excitement passes through the men. Whispers turn to murmurs, then to a low hum of disbelief and hope. Men who have spent weeks staring at nothing but endless water, men whose faces are etched with hunger and exhaustion, now look at this small, injured creature with a reverence that borders on awe. The green leaf, a tiny emblem of life and land, speaks volumes where words have failed. A man cautiously approaches the bird, his movements slow and careful. He gently scoops it up, cradling it in his hands. The bird doesn't flinch, its small body limp in his grasp. He holds it up, turning it so that everyone can see the leaf, a fragile beacon of promise. For a moment, all other sounds cease. Even the ocean's sighs seem to hold their breath. The air crackles with unspoken hope. The leaf, so small, so insignificant in itself, becomes a symbol of everything we long for. Fresh water, solid ground, an end to this relentless journey. It's a tangible piece of the land we've dreamed of for so long, a living testament to the existence of something beyond this vast, unforgiving sea. The man carefully lays the bird down, placing a soft piece of cloth beneath its broken wing. We gather around it, watching silently. Its breathing is shallow, ragged, but it lives. The green leaf, still clutched in its tiny talons, seems to glow with an inner light, a defiant spark of life in the face of despair. As the night deepens, the sounds of the sea become a backdrop to our silent vigil. The rhythmic creak and splash of waves, a constant reminder of the power of nature, its capacity for both destruction and unexpected, life-giving kindness. The salt spray, a constant companion these past weeks, feels gentler now, almost a caress against my weathered skin. The wind, which has howled its mournful song for what feels like an eternity, has quieted to a whisper. The Santa María rocks gently, a cradle on the vast, dark ocean. The stars, those unwavering witnesses to our journey, burn brighter tonight, closer somehow, like celestial embers
fallen from a distant fire. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers scratching my back, a familiar discomfort. The rhythmic creak of the hull, the sigh of the wood as it breathes with the waves, is a lullaby I've grown accustomed to, a comforting rhythm against the endless, monotonous expanse of blue. Hunger gnaws at my belly, a familiar ache, but tonight the hunger is less acute, muted by a strange, burgeoning feeling. A hope, fragile as a newborn bird, stirs within me. The air tonight is thick with the scent of brine and something else, something green, a subtle sweetness, almost imperceptible at first, but growing stronger with each passing moment. I close my eyes, letting the sounds of the ocean wash over me, the gentle slap of waves against the hull, the distant cry of a gull. It's a sound I rarely notice anymore, so accustomed have I become to the silence of this boundless sea. But tonight, the silence is different. It's punctuated by something else, a tiny, rustling sound, almost inaudible above the whisper of the waves. My eyes flutter open. I sit up, peering into the near darkness. There, near the mast, something small and feathered lies on the deck. It moves slightly, a tremor of life in the still night. I crawl closer, my heart beating a little faster. It's a bird, small and injured, its wing bent at an unnatural angle. Its feathers are ruffled and dull, the color of withered driftwood. But as I approach, I see something else. Nestled amongst its feathers, a vibrant splash of green.
It's a leaf. Not just any leaf. This is a leaf unlike any I have ever seen. A broad, vibrant emerald, glistening even in the dim light, rich with the life of a faraway land. It's a leaf from a plant lush and unfamiliar, a vibrant contrast to the arid brown of my own cracked lips. The bird, exhausted, doesn't flinch as I carefully approach, my touch as gentle as the breeze that carries the scent of distant shores. Its tiny body trembles, its beak slightly open in a silent cry of pain and exhaustion. A murmur rises from the other sailors, roused from their sleep by the slight movement. They gather around, drawn by the sight of the injured bird and the startlingly vibrant green leaf clutched in its tiny talons. Whispers erupt, a tide of hopeful speculation. Land, someone breathes, the word barely audible above the gentle sigh of the waves. It must be land, another man repeats, his voice thick with emotion and awe. For weeks, the monotony of the sea has numbed our senses. Hope itself felt like a lost treasure sunk deep beneath the waves. But this small, injured creature, this tiny messenger from a faraway land, has brought it back to the surface. This vibrant leaf, a tangible piece of distant shores, has reignited within us a flame that had nearly flickered out. It's a sign, small and fragile, yet potent enough to conquer the despair that had begun to settle over us like a shroud. We look out at the vast expanse of the ocean, no longer seeing only endless blue, but an expanse of water stretching towards a land yet unseen, but now undeniably real. The captain, alerted to the commotion, emerges from his cabin. He looks at the bird, at the leaf, and a smile, the first genuine smile I have seen in weeks, plays upon his lips. He speaks a few words that I can barely hear over the pounding of my own heart.
but his voice is firm, filled with confidence and a renewed strength. The simple presence of that leaf speaks volumes. It speaks of trees, of earth, of fruit and fresh water, of life beyond the endless horizon. The bird lies still, but its presence, its suffering, and its tenacious hold on that single leaf is the most profound symbol of hope I've ever seen. It's a story we carry with us into the remaining nights, a story that makes even the hunger and weariness that much more bearable. The wind has died down. It's a stillness that presses down, heavier than the air itself. The only sounds are the gentle creak of the Santa Maria's timbers, a sigh of wood settling against wood, and the whisper-soft lapping of waves against the hull. The stars are thick tonight, a scattering of diamonds spilled across a velvet cloth. They're a comfort somehow, these distant suns, a reminder that there's something bigger out here than our little wooden prison, bigger than our hunger, bigger than our fear. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers scratching against my skin. It doesn't matter. My body aches with a dull, persistent weariness that's settled deep into my bones. Sleep would be a blessing, a brief escape from the endless blue. But sleep has become a fickle thing these days, a shadow that dances just out of reach. My mind races, even as I try to still it. The salt air stings my nostrils, a familiar bite. The taste of salt is on my lips, a constant reminder of this relentless ocean. I think of home sometimes, the scent of wood smoke, the feel of warm earth beneath my bare feet. Those memories flicker like dying embers, almost extinguished by the vastness of the sea. But even those faint sparks are precious. They're a tether, a frayed rope, connecting me to a life I barely remember. A life that feels as distant and unreal as the stars themselves. A sound cuts through the quiet, a small, almost imperceptible thump. I open my eyes, straining to see in the dim light. First, I see nothing. Then I see it. A small bird, exhausted, lies on the deck near my feet. Its wings are folded tight against its small body, its feathers ruffled and damp. It doesn't move. I reach out slowly, cautiously, fearing to disturb it.
As my fingers brush against its delicate feathers, I see it. In its beak, clutched tightly, is a single, vibrant green leaf. A leaf so intensely green, so shockingly alive against the muted grays and blues of the sea, it takes my breath away. It's a leaf unlike any I've ever seen, broad and smooth, with a rich, almost luminous quality. It seems impossibly out of place, a piece of vibrant life dropped into this desolate, endless expanse of water. A ripple of movement stirs among the other men. Whispers begin, soft and hesitant at first, then growing louder, more insistent. The leaf, the bird, the word tierra, land, passes from lip to lip, a hushed prayer, a desperate hope. Even the cook, the most taciturn man aboard, stares at the bird with a glimmer of something akin to awe in his usually hardened eyes. Someone brings a small cup of water. Another gently lifts the bird, cradling it in their calloused hands. The green leaf remains clutched firmly in its beak, a fragile flag of hope waving against the vast emptiness of the sea. The bird is weak, its breaths shallow and ragged, but it seems to cling to that leaf with an almost supernatural strength. It's a testament to the enduring power of instinct, a silent testament to the possibility of life, of salvation just beyond the horizon. The news spreads like wildfire. For the first time in weeks, a murmur of hope ripples through the ship, replacing the gnawing despair that had settled over us like a shroud. Even the captain, his face etched with worry lines, allows himself a brief, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. The simple, silent offering of a lone, exhausted bird has restored within us a spark of faith we thought we had lost. The leaf, small and fragile as it may be, has become our compass, pointing us toward a land we only dreamed of. I close my eyes, the image of that vibrant green leaf seared into my memory. I hear the whispers of my shipmates, the gentle creaks of the ship, the rhythmic lapping of the waves. But now something else has entered into the soundscape of the night. It's the quiet beat of a renewed hope. A hope as fragile as the little bird itself, but real, undeniable. Tomorrow the sea will still be endless, but tonight, under the watchful eyes of the stars, I can dream of land. I can dream of green. The salt spray kisses my face, a familiar chill that no longer stings as much as it numbs. The endless blue above is a mirror to the endless blue below, broken only by the faintest glimmer of stars, each one a tiny pinprick in the velvet. The ship sighs, a deep, groaning exhale of wood and wave. The rhythmic creak of the hull, the whisper of the wind in the sails. It's a lullaby I've grown used to, a song of monotony that somehow cradles me into a restless sleep. My bones ache, a deep, dull throb that vibrates with the rhythm of the sea. My belly rumbles a discordant counterpoint, the hollow echo of hunger that has become a constant companion. I lie on the deck, the rough-hewn planks digging into my back. The air is thick with the scent of salt and something else, something faintly green, almost sweet. I can't quite place it. It's a whisper against the stronger smells of fish and sweat and tar that permeate everything. I close my eyes, the sounds of the sea washing over me, a soothing tide that pulls me towards the edge of sleep. A shadow falls across my face. I open my eyes, blinking against the starlight. Above me, a small shape flutters, a dark silhouette against the brilliant constellations. It's a bird, small, exhausted, its wings beating weakly. It circles once, twice, then plummets toward the deck, landing with a soft thud. It's a seabird, its plumage ruffled and soaked, its small body trembling. One wing hangs limp, broken. I reach out cautiously, my hand hesitant, unsure. The bird doesn't flinch. It lies there, its breath ragged, its tiny chest heaving. As I look closer, I see something clutched in its claws, something small and vibrant against the dull grays of its feathers. It's a leaf, a single perfect leaf, a vivid, impossible emerald green against the monotone blues and grays that have dominated my world for what feels like a lifetime.
It shimmers faintly in the starlight. A tropical leaf, lush and vibrant, unlike anything that grows on the harsh, barren shores of our own lands.
A deep, weathered male voice. He sounds like an old sailor recounting a perilous and awe-inspiring journey from his youth. His voice carries the weight of experience, a touch of wonder, and the quiet resilience of someone who has faced the vast, unknown ocean. A deep, gentle, and affectionate male voice. He sounds like a loving grandfather telling a familiar bedtime story to his young grandchildren. His pacing is measured and calming, not slow or tired, but deliberate, deep, lower pitch. There is a hint of a smile and gentle wisdom in his voice. A murmur ripples through the nearby sleeping men. Others awaken, drawn by the bird's fall and my hushed gasp. They gather around, their faces etched with weariness, illuminated by the starlight and the moon's pale glow. The leaf, that tiny scrap of green, holds us all spellbound. This is not a leaf born of the salt and the wind. This is a leaf from land. One of the men, older than me, with eyes that have seen too much of the sea and too little of the land, reaches out a gnarled finger, so slowly, to touch the leaf. He whispers a prayer, something in Spanish that I can barely make out, a prayer to a saint of travelers, or perhaps to a saint of hope. The silence that follows is filled only with the gentle rocking of the ship, the whisper of the waves, and the ragged breaths of the bird. A few more crew members cautiously approach, drawn by the same spark of hope that ignites in our hearts. It's so fragile, like the bird itself, and so fiercely precious. For a moment, the despair that has clung to us like barnacles, the gnawing hunger, the bone-deep exhaustion, all fade into a second place, a distant murmur in the hum of the sea. This small, injured creature, this tiny scrap of green, speaks volumes where our tired minds cannot make sense of the endless expanse of water. It has come to us, a living messenger, a small promise in the vastness of the ocean. The bird's wing, its slight movement, the emerald leaf, a potent hope amidst the endless sea. A hope that's not just a dream, but a tangible presence. And even if the journey has more storms to face, the vision of that leaf, fresh and green, makes even this endless blue feel slightly less hopeless. The fragile form of the bird, carrying its delicate cargo, seems to embody our hope. And in that hope, a strange kind of peace settles over me, a comfort that comes from sharing this moment with my companions, bound together by our shared hardship and our shared miracle. We may yet reach the promised land, the leaf, a tiny green flag of hope fluttering in the night wind. The sails ripple like whispered breath against the skin of the ship, a gentle rocking, a lullaby of the waves. The stars, a million pinpricks of light scattered across the vast, inky canvas above. They're brighter here, further from land, unfiltered by city lights or earthly haze. My body aches, a familiar symphony of soreness. The salt, still clinging to my skin, feels less like a burn now, more like a crust of the sea itself, a part of me.
The hunger is a dull throb, a constant companion. But tonight, the hunger is quieter than the waves. I lie back against a coil of thick, rough rope, the fibers scratching against my cheek. The wood of the ship groans under me, a low, rhythmic sigh that echoes the rhythm of the ocean. The air is cool, carrying the scent of salt and something else, something faintly sweet, almost floral, carried on a distant breeze. It's a fleeting scent, gone almost as soon as it arrives, but it clings to the edge of my awareness, a whisper of another world. The men around me are mostly silent, their breathing a ragged chorus in the darkness. Some are snoring, shallow and rasping breaths. Others, like me, are simply lost in the vastness of the night, adrift in the endless expanse of the ocean and the even more endless expanse of our journey. The ship is our whole world now. These rough-hewn planks, this swaying deck, this unpredictable sea, this is our home. Sleep comes in fits and starts, a restless drifting. I dream of green fields, of the smell of freshly baked bread, and of a woman's laughter, images that feel as distant and inattainable as the stars themselves. Then a sudden, sharp, piercing shriek cuts through the night. It's a sound born of pure, unadulterated terror. It hangs in the air, a raw, visceral cry that freezes the blood in my veins. Before I can even register the sound fully, another scream follows, closer this time, followed by a cacophony of shouting, a frantic chorus of panicked voices, the cries of men drowning in fear and the splintering of wood. A monstrous wave, a wall of water taller than any mast, crashes down upon the Santa María, swallowing the ship in its churning embrace.
The world explodes in a maelstrom of noise and chaos. The ship groans, a death rattle of twisting wood and ripping canvas. Water rushes in, a cold, suffocating deluge that rips me from my sleep and throws me against the hard, unforgiving wood. I claw desperately for purchase, clinging to anything solid I can find. The deck tilts violently, tossing me like a rag doll against the groaning structure. I feel the bone-jarring impact of the ship as it is tossed around like a toy. The darkness is filled with the sounds of struggle, of men fighting for air, for life, for a handhold in the swirling chaos. I hear the sickening crack of breaking bones, the gurgle of drowning men, the desperate cries for help that are swallowed by the raging storm. The very air itself seems to be fighting back. The ship, once our sanctuary, is now a death trap, its strength failing under the unrelenting assault of the ocean's fury. I'm thrown again and again, surrendered to the raging torrent, dragged across the deck, battered by relentless waves and debris. Salt water stings my eyes, fills my lungs, burns its way into my throat. Then, slowly, mercifully, the violence begins to subside. The storm hasn't ended, not by a long shot, but the immediate, brutal onslaught has passed. The groaning of the ship is still audible, a deep, pained sigh. The cries of men have lessened, replaced by the heavy, labored breaths of the survivors. I find myself clinging to a broken mast, waterlogged and exhausted, barely alive. Around me, the deck is a scene of devastation. Broken wood, tangled ropes,
scattered debris, and the chilling stillness of those who didn't survive. The night is still, except for the mournful creak of the damaged ship and the relentless rhythm of the waves. The stars peer through the tattered clouds, indifferent witnesses to the carnage. I look around at the faces of my shipmates, etched with exhaustion, fear, and a grim acceptance of the brutality of the sea. The scent of salt is heavy in the air, mingled with the metallic tang of blood. Spain feels farther than ever, a lifetime ago. I close my eyes, the image of the monstrous waves seared into my memory. Sleep will come again, eventually, but it won't be quiet anymore. The sails ripple like whispered breath. The ship rocks gently, a slow, familiar cradle. The stars return, brilliant and endless, pricking the velvet cloth of the night. My bones ache, a deep, dull thrumming that matches the rhythm of the waves against the hull. The salt stings my lips, a constant, gritty reminder of this endless blue expanse. I lie back against a coil of rope, the rough fibers scratching against my skin, but I don't mind. The weariness is a blanket, heavy and warm, pulling me down. The sounds of the men around me are muted, sighs and low murmurs lost to the whispering wind. Even the creak of the ship, the constant companion of these long weeks, seems softer now, lulled by the quiet vastness of the sea. The hunger, usually annoying beast in my belly, sleeps now too, subdued by exhaustion. Tomorrow I'll wake to the same ocean, the same sun, the same endless horizon. And that is somehow enough, for tonight at least. The world narrows to the feel of the rough rope beneath me, the cool night air on my face, the steady, hypnotic rocking of the Santa Maria. Sleep claims me, a gentle hand drawing me down into its dark embrace. Then the world explodes. The gentle rocking becomes a violent lurch. I'm thrown, jarring awake, the comforting darkness replaced by a chaotic swirl of wind and water. The air is thick with the screams of men, swallowed by the rising fury of the storm. The stars, just moments ago serene and comforting, are now obscured by a churning black sky. The ship groans, a tortured beast under the assault of the wind and waves, timbers straining under unimaginable pressure. The rhythmic creak becomes a frantic, desperate shriek.
My ears ring with the cacophony of the storm. The screams a chilling counterpoint to the frantic groans of the ship. Water crashes over the deck, a relentless icy deluge. I cling to the rope, my knuckles white, my body pressed against the hard wood. The world is a dizzying blur of motion, the ship tossed about like a child's toy in a tempest. The smell of salt is overwhelmed by the sharp, acrid tang of fear. I can feel the ship tilting precariously, the deck listing dangerously to one side. The cries of men become fainter, swallowed by the roar of the wind and the relentless pounding of the waves. I see a flash of lightning illuminating the chaos, revealing a man thrown overboard, his desperate cries cut short by the roaring waves. Another scream, closer this time, closer than I'd like to be. Then silence. The storm seems to feed on fear, on the terror that grips every soul aboard. I'm battered, bruised, soaked to the bone. The cold seeps into my very marrow, but the fear is worse. a chilling presence that threatens to overwhelm me. I huddle against the hull, feeling the shuddering of the timbers beneath me, praying that the ship will hold, praying that this terrifying ordeal will end. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the storm begins to subside. The wind loses its ferocious bite, the waves their destructive power. The groaning of the ship becomes a tired sigh, a weary release. The screams are gone, replaced by the heavy, ragged breathing of the survivors. The rain continues, a gentler weeping now, washing over the battered deck. I lie there clinging to the rope, my body numb with exhaustion and fear, the taste of salt and terror coating my tongue. I don't know how long I've been here or how much longer we will endure this ordeal. But as the first hint of dawn pierces the still stormy sky, a fragile sense of relief settles over me. We have survived the night. We are still afloat. The storm has passed, but the tempest in my soul lingers. The memory of those screams will forever haunt the silence of the ocean. We survived, but at a terrible cost. The sea, once a cruel but indifferent mistress, has revealed her terrifying power. And yet, in the heart of that fear, a stubborn ember of hope remains, a faint flicker against the vast darkness of the ocean. The journey continues. The salt spray stings less now. The wind, though still present, has a different feel. It's softer, more gentle. It carries a scent, faint at first, then stronger, a sweetness, unfamiliar and intoxicating, not the harsh metallic tang of the sea, but something earthy, something green. You sit up, stiff and aching, but the familiar gnawing hunger is less. A dull ache remains, a deep throb in your bones, a reminder of the endless rocking, the ceaseless pull of the waves. But it's overshadowed by something else, something hopeful. A shadow flickers across the deck. You squint, your eyes adjusting to the weak light of the pre-dawn. There, nestled near the mainmast, lies a bird. Small, its feathers ruffled and damp, its wing bent at an unnatural angle. It's injured, but alive. In its beak, clutched tight, is something vibrant, shockingly vivid against the muted grays and browns of the ship. A single perfect green leaf. A leaf unlike you've ever seen. Lush, broad, with a veined surface that speaks of sun and rich earth. It doesn't belong to this endless expanse of blue. A murmur ripples through the ship, whispers, gasps, the low guttural sounds of men who have forgotten how to properly speak, their voices hoarse from weeks of shouting against the wind and the waves. Someone touches your shoulder, a rough hand, a silent question. You look at the leaf, you look at the bird, you look at the faces around you, faces etched with lines of exhaustion and desperation, yet now illuminated by a fragile flame of hope, the same hope that beats faintly in your own tired heart. The air crackles with a quiet excitement, a shared understanding that transcends words. Land. It's not just a whispered rumor anymore. It's a green leaf held in the beak of an injured bird. Proof. The sun crests the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft rose. And as the first rays touch the leaf, it shimmers, reflecting a light that seems to reach deep within your soul. The ocean continues its slow, rhythmic breathing, but the sound is no longer a lullaby of despair. It's a cradle song of hope. The journey isn't over, But for the first time in weeks, the future doesn't seem as endless, as terrifying as the ocean itself. The future feels green.